Welcome into the lounge, presented by DraftKings. We are joined by wide receiver Devin Duvernay today. And Devin, we're off to a good start. All right, so one of my goals with this podcast is to get you to laugh. All right, because you're a mild-mannered dude. So, all right, so we're off to a good start. We got a smile already, got a little chuckle. All right, what do you think?
Don't expect much more. That's all you got.
That's all we get. Do you think we can get something from you today? What do you think? Like some jokes? Can we get a good laugh, a good belly laugh? What's a Duvernay laugh even sound like? I'm not even sure.
There you go. Yeah. There it is.
Oh, no, it's funny you say that. I get that a lot. Oh, no. It just kind of happens. It has to be in the moment.
All right. We'll start off with some football. You know, it's got to catch you by surprise. You know what I mean? So 12 catches on 13 targets this year. Pretty sweet. Do you remember what was the one that you didn't catch? That's my question. Do you remember the one you didn't get?
I'm honestly not too sure.
Nice. All right. That's good.
Yeah,
He's like, that wasn't really a target for me.
I don't know. Maybe it was thrown out of bounds or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, they gave it the target to me, but it was not coming my way.
Know.
It was intended for somebody else.
Stat error.
So what's your mentality going into this week? I mean, obviously, you've gotten off to a really hot start, playing some really good ball, special teams and offense. And now this week, you know, Bates dealing with a foot injury, going into a big Sunday night football game against the Bengals. And, you know, if Bate can't play, we don't know yet, then more is going to be on your shoulders, obviously. You know, I mean, how's Devin Duvernay wide receiver 1? What's the ring on that? How's that sound to you?
I mean, good, man. I just, prepare every week for it, for opportunities. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. You never know, things may happen if someone's going to go down. So me personally, I always just prepare, to dominate just every Sunday. Whenever my number's called, whenever I get a chance to catch the ball, just dominate.
Yeah.
So if you look at some of the, the articles of surprise players for the first quarter of the season or guys we were sleeping on, your name is often on those lists. So what does that mean to you? Like, were people sleeping on you a little too much coming into this season?
I mean, I guess so. But I mean, people have their own opinions. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do, what I like to do. So, I mean, if people sleep, that's on them. I mean, I guess they'll find out, as I, just continue to get chances to prove myself. The
thing that's really stood out to me about your game this year that has been great is your ability to make contested catches. Like, I knew you had the speed. I knew you could get yak once you got the ball in your hands. But, you have gone up and made tough contested catches this year in the red zone. Talk to me a little bit about that aspect of your game.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, T and Dub have really, hounded on me about this offseason was just like, man, just be different. Just make the catches that, people don't expect you to make or people don't really normally make in this league, because, I mean, on the outside world, it could look hard, but, he's always telling me, like, man, you got it like that, so just go up and make the catch, focus on the ball. So, this offseason, I really, kind of just thought about it a lot, try to, incorporate maybe drills here and there just to, high point the ball, go get the ball, not look at the defender, and just try to make a play on the ball.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's because I feel like a lot of guys would just be like, oh, I always can make contested catches, but it's interesting to hear like that was a point of focus for you this offseason.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially, I mean, being smaller stature,
right,
know, or whatever. So, yeah, just trying to be different, just trying to, make those plays that people don't think I can make, and that what drives me.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't usually think of a 5'11" dude as being a contested catch guy.
Yeah.
But the thing that really made me kind of think about that was I went back and saw Eric DeCosta quote from when the Ravens drafted you in the third round. And he said, and I quote, "I just like Devin's competitive streak, his nature. He's a tough guy. He reminds me of a few guys that we've had here in Baltimore, and I'll reference guys like Anquan Bolden, Derek Mason, and of course Steve Smith. These guys had a competitive spirit about them that made them really stand out." And that's what kind of stands out to me. Back me up here.
Yeah.
I said after the Jets catch, I was like, that catch reminded me of some of the plays that Anquan Bolden used to make here. And Anquan wasn't the tallest dude either.
Yeah.
He was just kind of rocked up, and he had that competitive spirit, and the Devin McCourty point and all that stuff. And that play kind of reminded me of Anquan. Like, is that something that you feel like, you made it a point of focus this offseason, but like, even though you aren't tall, you're a muscular dude that you can box people out, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can use strength in a lot of things, and then back to competitiveness. And like, I'm super competitive, man, with everything I do, man. A DB, I'm trying to get after him, blocking, catching the ball, running the route. So yeah, I definitely just find love in being competitive.
Right. Were Anquan, Steve, were those guys that you kind of looked up to in your youth, or who was it that you kind of modeled your game after a little bit?
Yeah, no, I for sure I watched, Steve Smith in his Carolina days. Watched him a ton. Was a big fan of him. And
nice.
Yeah, no, that was someone I watched a ton
for
sure.
Personality-wise, you two are just two peas in a pod. You're so alike, you and Steve Smith.
Really?
That was the other part that cracked me up too about both your touchdowns. So you make the play, the ref signals touchdown, and both guys were still trying to rip the ball out of your hand. You're on the ground, they're still wrestling. I'm like, dude, it's a touch. Get off. But the funny thing is, Steve would have ripped that dude's head off. Steve got up and ripped that dude's, and you didn't even react to the guy still trying to rip the ball out of your hand.
Yeah, I was just like, man, it's a touchdown. What are you doing? Let go of the ball. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. What do you do when DBs talk trash to you?
I'll say some stuff back.
No,
I kind of get going. It honestly drives me. I like the trash talk. I think it's part of the game. I think it's good for the game. But yeah. I'll draw back a little bit. Get a little physical. I like getting physical, things like that. So yeah, I definitely don't take anything personal, and I think it keeps me going.
I really want to hear Devin Duvernay trash talk. We gotta get you mic'd up.
Yeah, I'm gonna know that. I'm not gonna say anything.
We had Devin mic'd to the Pro Bowl, but those practices are a little bit tamer. We'll say.
Yeah, for sure.
Not as much trash talk.
Yeah, not as much trash talk going on in the Pro Bowl practices.
So when we're talking about comparisons, another guy that we've gotten a lot of questions, or who fans often talk about in reference to you, is Deebo Samuel. And they talk about, can Duve run the ball out of the backfield? Can he kind of be this running back, wide receiver hybrid? What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I guess I honestly haven't really thought too much about it.
Okay.
I know people, I guess, think we, kind of have the same stature, kind of can play alike, this and that.
Yeah.
But just it's just kind of cool seeing, coaches, utilize their guys in, different ways. And,
yeah.
I feel like I enjoy my role here, love the way I'm being used. Giro has, a ton of stuff for me, even, stuff out the backfield, wide out, deep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty cool to see how the game's, going.
Yeah, it's cool.
Do you think that is kind of, I don't know if it's a future of the position because it's so unique, but do you think we could see more players trying to do those types of things and coaches trying to use receivers in that type of way?
I think so. I've seen Justin Jefferson be out the backfield. I've seen Cooper Kupp, Deebo. I've seen a number of receivers, get backfield action, and I think it's trending upwards.
Yeah,
for sure.
So the other interesting thing is last couple years offensively, you were a little bit more of a gadget guy, a lot of sweeps and stuff like that. But the production and the high volume aspect, certainly something you're used to from your college days. At Texas, you and James Prochet were going back and forth for the nation's lead in catches. So did you always feel hey man, when it comes to my time, that they're going to be targeting me a lot, I'm going to be ready for that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know there's always, guys in front of you, guys that are drafted, years before you and things like that. So I knew I had to, wait my turn. I just stayed ready, worked hard, was super focused in practice and meetings. And, whenever my number was called, I was ready, whether it be when I had a smaller role, no role, or, where I'm, continuing to get a bigger role.
When you're as competitive as you are, how difficult can that be?
Yeah, for sure it can be difficult. You gotta talk to yourself. You gotta, just think bigger picture. Just kind of, just focus on yourself. Just continue to, improve your game. So when the time comes, you're at the, the highest level you could have put yourself at to, go out and make the best of that opportunity.
Along those lines, what is it like when you come from Texas, big time college school, and you put up monster numbers? What was it, 106 catches? Is that
something like that?
Yeah,
what was it?
You know it.
It was I think it was 106. I think it was 106.
Yeah, something like 106. Light work. But when you do that, and then you come to the NFL, and you have to kind of wait your turn to a certain extent and earn your spot. What is that challenging? How do you how have you felt about that?
I mean, yeah, it was challenging at first, but I kind of, just talk to I do a lot of self-talk. I just find the bright side in it, think of it as, opportunity to just get better, work on my game. And just, knowing my time's going to come, I just got to get better, continue to work. I knew I was coming to the NFL. I mean, it's kind of like a starting over process for everybody. Kind of got to earn your respect, kind of earn your ways, let the coaches, get to know you and things like that. So, that's kind of how I viewed it.
Right. A lot of people obviously asked Bate, how he felt about the Hollywood trade and stepping into the number one role. But really, that trade almost impacted you or said something about the organization's faith in you more than it did about Bate. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it opened up that starting spot. What was your reaction when that happened on draft night? Were you watching the draft when it happened? Just take me into that.
Yeah, I was watching it. I was surprised by it. Marquise, was my boy. Hate to see him, get traded, things like that. But deep down, I knew it was just going to prevail more opportunity. For me, for the guys. And, just got to, make the most of it and, super excited for the future.
So what is that night like? All right, so you're watching the draft. Mm-hmm. Did you know it was coming or not? Were you surprised like everybody else?
Yeah, no, I was surprised. you hear little trickles here and there.
Right, but it's like, is it actually gonna happen?
Yeah, exactly. But so, I saw it and I was like, oh, wow.
That's the what's the oh, wow face from Devin Duvernay? Look like they're, all the rest of us like, I want to see what you're wow. You're just like,
you just did. He's like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. I was like that. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there watching the draft.
And do you like? I'm just curious. Like, do you then get on the phone with like the other receivers? Like, do you talk? Are you watching with friends or family? Like, what is that night like? Or you just say, oh, I'll talk to these guys later. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, no, I was watching it by myself at my place, and Pro had actually texted me and said, man, it happened. And then I guess my TV was like a little bit behind. And then it ended up popping up on my TV. And I was like, wow, it really did happen. But,
yeah. So then obviously there was all the talk this offseason about the receiving core and the way that you bring somebody in and all this. And you guys said so many times that you were confident in the group and you were going to prove a lot of people wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think that you certainly have done that as a group, and I think you specifically over the course of this year. What does it mean to basically say that you're going to do it and then do it? You actually go out there and do it. It's easy to say that we're going to do it, but you guys have actually.
You can shut your mouth. No, I'm just joking.
No, man, we just knew the work we put in, man. We watch each other every day. We all know what we can do. And we all, we've all played in a game on Sunday, in our past. So we all knew what being an NFL receiver was like. You kind of watch guys, watch things. So we're like, yeah, we know we can compete with these guys. We know we can match up with these guys, things like that. Mm-hmm. So, man, we just continue to keep going, man. If anything, it just drives us, I feel like.
Tell me about, in college, you were a kick returner, but you didn't return any punts in college.
Yeah, no.
So who was the first person that approached you about doing that here? And were you like, yeah, let's get it, or you're like, this might be a bad idea?
That's funny. That's funny you say that. But I think, Chris, after the first training camp, he had they always just kind of had me catching punts and just for safe measure, things like that. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm never doing this. And then I think at the end of camp, he kind of just called me up in his office and was like, hey, man, don't be surprised if I just, throw you back there one of these weeks. And
so
I was like, damn, he's for real. But still in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, whatever. What are the odds? And then I think I can't remember the first week it was that I did punts. I think it was later in the season. Like,
I want to say it was like a play, like close to the end.
It was like we played. It was the Giants. I remember the game was the Giants. I think we played. It was like week maybe 14, 13, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I think they told me like Thursday or Friday, like, hey, like, make sure you get out there. I was like kind of warming up in the locker room or whatever, and they're like, hey, make sure you get out, practice, catch punts. And I'm like, dang, why is everybody like pressing me? Like everyone was like pressing me about like going out to catch punts. And then he told me, he's like, yeah, you're catching this Sunday. And I was like, damn.
Yes.
Damn. But I was pretty confident though, because I did it all year in practice, catching the ball and stuff like that. It was, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. You kind of growing up just seeing punt returns, people getting killed and stuff like that. So you're like, you kind of have nightmares about it. But no, the hardest part is just catching the ball and then, go from there. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely fun.
I think being a punt returner is one of the hardest jobs. Take it from experience here.
Right. You should really see him first.
No, but
when he catches that ball.
I just think it seems to be one of the hardest jobs. Like, you're in a stadium, there's all this going on, and you're not looking at what's coming towards you.
Right.
You're obviously just looking at the ball.
It's like you have to have bifocals, I imagine.
Actually, when I'm back there, I look at the ball for sure, but I actually try to take a peek.
Really?
And then,
How many peeks do you take?
It depends how high the ball is. Sometimes, usually like one. I'll usually like track the ball for a while, and then take a quick peek, and then determine if I'm a fair catcher. If I have room. But if it's a real high one, I'll kind of like peek, look, track the ball, look again, and then catch the ball.
Interesting.
But it's just kind of a feel.
Is that how most guys do it, or most guys it's almost like you have to be looking at both at the same time, or they don't even look at the?
I'm honestly
one eye
sure.
goes up, the other guy goes.
I know really usually on like lower kick balls, you can kind of like look at the ball and periph like what's in front of you.
Right.
But if it's like real high where your chin is like really up, you kind of got to peek, like keep going.
Well, and that's what's the amazing thing about how well you've done, because you didn't have this history, and like you're saying, like really the hardest part of the job is having that feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I asked Chris Horton about that today, and what makes you so good, and he's talked about like decision making, like that is really such a hard part, and you had no feel for that.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about. Yeah, you got to have a good feel. And like half the battle is making smart decisions.
Right.
I mean, protect yourself, with the fair catch, and then, just catch the ball. So
what part of the job do you like better, wide receiver or returner?
I'll say receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say receiver.
All right. So what does it take? Like, I got to think that as a returner, calling a fair catch is a good thing to have in your back pocket, but you don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So like,
sure.
like, what does it take? What do you need to see to be like, all right, you know what? No shot. I'm getting anywhere on this. Because you don't call a ton of fair catches.
Usually like pooch situations are usually like most of the time fair catches, because shorter field, obviously, the punt's usually higher, and the punt team usually getting down quicker. But on big field returns, I usually have more space. I kind of look at pre-snap stuff to think of that. But I'd say if what's like a no-go where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. If I see when I get back there, I get under the ball, I see take a peek, and I see a gunner just screaming down at me, or like somebody's just screaming down, like, and they're within. If I know they're gonna hit me as soon as I catch the ball, if I'm not gonna have time to make a move, then I'm probably gonna have to fair catch it.
All right, last punt return question. I'm just peppering you with punt return questions.
Garrett's like getting ready to be your backup.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly. You never know. The more you can do.
You never know, huh? The more you can do.
So what I love about your punt return game is like your ability to get like 8 yards, like easy. It just seems like you can like easily get 7, 8, 9 yards without even like really. How much of it is like looking for the big play, and how much of it is just looking to get a little something? Because that's one of the things I think that you do better than anybody.
Yeah, it's not always pretty. Chris always just tells me, man, just get upfield. Just get upfield. Make smart decisions. Don't go lateral. Don't go backwards. And just start vertical, and then take it from there. The rest will take care of itself.
Right, interesting. All right, so how does it make you feel in a stadium now when you hear "Dude"?
No, that's pretty cool. It's kind of surreal just to hear the crowd screaming that.
That's neat. Yeah. So one of our broadcast interns, DeJour Brown, big fan of yours, sitting right over there with his face buried in his hands, right? I like literally can't keep track of the times that I've heard from his cubicle, dude got that dog in him. Right? Like we hear, how many times a day do we hear that?
At least once. At least
once a day.
Really?
So this question comes from him. I let DeJour send in a question, okay? And his question is, if you, Lamar, Hollywood, or Kyler are playing tag, you're not racing, you're playing tag. Who's getting tagged first?
Who's getting tagged first?
And Kyler Murray, this because your cousin. Your cousin.
It? Everyone's it.
Who's getting tagged?
I guess who's it? DeJour, who's it?
It was just like if people are chasing them.
Okay, just the people. If anybody's chasing them, like if I'm chasing them, who's getting caught first?
So like just 5 random NFL players chasing them.
Okay.
Oh, 5 random NFL. Oh,
well,
this
these 5.
question
These
is
5.
twisted.
These 5.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, go ahead.
If I run,
Okay.
Who's getting caught first?
Right.
I don't think Lamar getting caught first.
Lamar, not Lamar.
I guess Keys.
Oh! I mean, he's fast, but he doesn't have the wiggle as much.
I don't know, man. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Kyler's gonna outlast Marquise.
It was between him and It was between Kyler and Keys.
Now, I heard Calais Campbell today ask you a question in the locker room, which was, do you think you're one of the 5 fastest players in the NFL? And you said...
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats say that you are.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, just exactly.
21.6 miles per hour. Nobody's topped it.
Yeah.
Is that something you take a lot of pride in?
Yeah, speed, yeah. Yeah, I do. And I mean, yeah, I think even last year, I think I hit faster on my rookie year, one of the years. Last year on my rookie year, I hit faster than that.
You did.
Game,
it was last year. You hit 21.76 because I had that keyed up because I was going to ask you if you're gotten slower.
I think even I can't think what was it? I think the kick return rookie year, I think I might have hit even
really
faster than that. Yeah.
Really?
I can't remember, but hey man, numbers.
Well, so your dad was like a really good track runner in New Orleans, right? And so he trained you and your twin brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were like trained as track athletes, right?
Yeah. We grew up like all working out together, pulling sleds, bungee cords, all that. Yeah, we grew up running track.
How old were you doing that? Like,
we started running track at like 4 or 5-ish.
wow.
I'd say like working out, like kind of like that. I don't know, middle school maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were running track at 4 and 5 years old?
Something like that, real young for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's
real
funny.
Young, 'cause I know I was playing football at like 4 or 5 too.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a couple more from me. One of the things that stands out to me is like you are a disciplined guy. And like just as a little story here, like we were talking about doing this interview before practice, but it's like 90 minutes before practice, and you're like you got your routine. Like like other guys are kind of hanging out and eating lunch, and like you're stretching and you're going through your routine. Like it impresses me, and I think that's every like player who's had like longevity in the NFL. It seems like that's one of the things they talk about: routine, consistency, taking care of your body. Talk to me about like that. Is that always how you've been? Is that something that you've added to your game? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's how I've always been. Almost everything in life, man. I just feel like I gotta just have structure, just have stuff laid out, just have a plan. So so I'm just not going with the flow of things. Kind of, I got one thing I know, like get in the tubs. Then I'm gonna go. I'm listening to music. I'm getting in the tubs. I'm getting stretched. I'm getting the Magnum Wave machine on my leg. I go stretch and roll my feet out, get taped, stretch my ankles. Put my stuff on, go out to the turf and do my little, warm up, running warm up, stuff like that. So yeah,
it's working
like all season. So yeah, I'm sticking with that.
All right, last one for me. Has Calais Campbell actually started you yet in fantasy? Because we had him mic'd up earlier this season.
That's a great question.
And he said that he had you on his bench, and then you had 2 touchdowns that game.
Yeah. No, he told me he did. So I'm gonna take his word for it.
You're gonna have to check that lineup.
Yeah, I know I am. I'm gonna have to recheck and see, like, hey, you still got me starting or what?
I think you should have you starting on Sunday. I think that much.
And last thing I'll show you is proof that you got that dog in you. We got an X-ray. We got this from Dr. Curl.
That's the proof of it.
That's the proof. We got the X-ray.
Hey,
got that dog, and we got a laugh out of you. This is successful.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot,
No,
man.
I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, great stuff from dude.
Are you going to be doing that in the press box on Sunday?
Oh, for sure.
When
All
you're-
M&T Bank Stadium is going to be doing that.
When he runs back the opening kickoff again?
Oh, for sure. Oh, that would be amazing. We got a little warning in the press box the other day. You and we're on thin ice in the press box for our cheering now. Like you're supposed to keep it on the wraps, and you last week, I took the fall, but it was you who went nuts on the Marlon interception on the Bills' first drive. Marlon picks it off, and you're like, oh yeah, you gave a big one, and I got talked to.
No, see, that's the difference. First of all, any listener of the podcast knows that if there's somebody who's going to be loud and making a scene, it's not me.
Loud and obnoxious.
It's going to be you. It's going to be you.
I understand that that's a totally fair comment, but on this one, it was you. I'm keeping it on the wraps.
Was this New England press box style?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't break any chairs. This is a celebration. I'm an angel now in the press box.
I think what I do is I talk to myself, but I'm not loud. Let's go. A lot of that. But there's not much like you
hit a 6 or a 7.
No, you yell at the refs openly. You stand up and you yell at the refs.
Well, one thing that really gets to me is, and I notice a lot of this from the Bills media. when the other media members come up in our press box and start yucking a little too much, that starts. And the Bills, who lives up in northern New York and isn't a Bills fan?
Right.
Even if you're in the media, they are some fan media. I'm telling you, that it's a bunch of we going on from the newspaper writers up there. For you and I, we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But when they start yucking it, that starts to get to me.
All right, so before we continue the conversation and look ahead to this game against the Bengals, we do want to give a shout-out to our friends at DraftKings because as listeners and viewers know, the sports landscape is always changing, and this week is no different. DraftKings is the leader in daily fantasy sports, and it still has daily fantasy contests running for those who are looking to have skin in the game. This is simple. Every player has a salary associated with drafting them. You assemble a lineup of players, and then you try to stay under that salary cap, and you watch your points pile up. Yep. So you know how to play. Go ahead and download the DraftKings app today using the code FLOCK. Get that done today, and new users will get a free entry with their first deposit. Again, the code is FLOCK, and that's at DraftKings.
Yeah. So obviously, huge game coming up against the Bengals. This is really, I think, a bigger game than the Bills was. Right? Because this is a division opponent. First and foremost, when you look at the Ravens' priority list at the start of the season, the top item there is win the division. That's the first goal, right? And so this is the start of that as the Ravens' first AFC North game. And then obviously you layer on top of that, the Ravens are coming off a tough loss, and you'd like to build a little momentum. You've lost 2 games at home. You're riding a 5-game home losing streak. It's prime time. And the Bengals and what the Bengals, 2 blowout losses to the Bengals last year. They're talking some smack. Joe Burrow likes to do that a little bit. A lot of factors converging here that make this one feel like it's kind of like an early season playoff game.
Yeah, I think there's truth to that. I agree that this game is more significant than the Bills. If all the other factors, yes, but more so than anything else, it's the first division game. Yeah. And you have a chance here to put yourself in the driver's seat in the division. Both teams are 2-2. I think it's going to come down to these two teams at the end of the year.
I ultimately think that as well.
I'm not ruling the Browns out, and they certainly, if they hang around enough, and when Deshaun Watson comes back, that could obviously be a game changer. So I'm not ruling them out, but my guess right now is that it's going to come down between the Ravens and the Bengals. Yep. And so, they say that division games count for 2. That's kind of a thing that you hear a lot from coaches and players a lot. When it's the game against the team that you're probably going to be coming down to the wire against, might count for 3. I mean, This is about as significant as it gets, especially at home.
Yep.
Especially at home. So I don't know. I think that it was kind of interesting to hear from some of the players this week, particularly Lamar Jackson talking about the need to defend home turf and win at home. And that is definitely something. They've lost the 2 this year. I know it's a 5-game losing streak going back to last year. Personally,
that doesn't really count.
I don't put much stock into the games from last year when you were dealing with most of the team.
You
on
and I
IR.
were stretching, getting ready to go out there.
So much of the team was injured at the end of last season.
Right.
The 2 this year are significant though, and so
for sure.
I think that there's a real sense that there's a sense of pride. The Ravens historically have been a very good team at home. M&T Bank Stadium is historically a very hard place to play. It's even a harder place to play in prime time, where the Ravens are 18-2 under John Harbaugh.
Pretty darn good.
That's the best winning percentage in the NFL during Harbaugh's tenure. They don't lose at home at night hardly at all.
Yep.
So for all those factors,
and the all-black uniforms. I mean, come on.
I know. You just add all the
come on.
All the stuff. Nelly at halftime.
Nelly! I mean, it's getting hot in here, man.
So it is going to be an awesome atmosphere, and this is one that the Ravens know that they need to win.
Well, and obviously a lot of it comes down to, I think, the Ravens' defense and their pass defense against the Bengals. Joe Burrow, and then obviously T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd. I mean, that trio, Marlon Humphrey said it himself, that's the best wide receiver trio in the league, and I think he's right. And so, on paper, you have this high-powered offense, passing offense, and then you have the 32nd ranked pass defense in the league. The Ravens have struggled. Now, I almost said this. I said this in private last week. I kind of kept it under wraps.
Now you're going to say it publicly.
Now I'm going to say it publicly, okay?
This better be good.
So I've kind of felt like the Ravens are going to have a game where they just strap up some really good passing offense, right? Where the Ravens defense just kind of locks them down. And when you're not expecting it, right? And it happened last year against the Chargers. You remember that when Justin Herbert came in, and they have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and they have all these weapons on passing offense, and you're saying this is going to be a shootout, early season shootout. I think it was around this week 5, around this time.
Yeah.
And then the Ravens just
that was just a blowout.
It was just a blowout. Yeah, the pass defense was awesome, and it was not at all what we expected. That game's going to happen. I really, really feel like that game's going to happen for this Ravens pass defense. And I know it sounds crazy. It would have sounded crazy when if I said that last year before it happened, right? Because the Ravens have struggled so much. But I see signs of this pass defense improving, right? I mean, you look at the Miami game, that one really skewed the stats. And you had some big-time pass miscommunications, just busts, right, that led to these long touchdowns that really skewed the numbers there. But I've seen it get better, right? Like Mac Jones threw for 300 and some yards, but I mean, Josh Allen was held to 212 passing yards, I believe it was, right? And I know it was raining and all that stuff, but like you hold Stephon Diggs to under 70 yards.
Yeah, last game, I was just gonna say, like last game was kind of the game with the exception of the final result that you're kind of talking about. Exactly. It wasn't a blowout.
In the first half, I was like, man, I wish I had gone public with this statement. But
so now you're doubling down. Okay.
Well, I honestly I have a hard time seeing that happen against the Bengals because they have so many weapons that they can go to. Like Diggs was kind of the
so this is the prediction that's like not a prediction for this week. Like this is like at some point.
This is my final statement. It's gonna happen, and it could happen this week. It could.
Okay.
I'm not gonna predict that it's going to happen, but I'm just saying keep that in the back of your head because it's gonna happen one of these weeks.
The longtime listeners of the Lounge will know that this is like the most mink argument I've ever heard. Where it's like, I'm going to make this like abstract statement, long preamble to set it up like this is going to happen.
That I'm going to
and then I'm going to back off before I even make the prediction. And then if it does come true, then it's I told you so.
You know what? You're talking me into it. I'm going for it.
Yeah, this is the week.
Strapping them up. They're only going to give up. Burrow's going under 300.
Okay.
Jamar's under 100.
Okay.
I kind of think T might have the biggest game. I kind of think T. Higgins might be the matchup problem. But Burrow's still going under 300. It's going to and turn him over a couple times too. I'll tell you this. Burrow is nervous about turning the ball over. That's the one thing he's got in the back of his head is, the Ravens defense, they've given up a lot of yards, but they lead the league in takeaways. Or I think second in the league.
Right.
And so like protect the ball. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to be feeling quite as much, just like he can push the ball down the field willy-nilly as he was last year when the Ravens didn't have any corners out there.
Well, look, a story with the Bengals really going back for like 3 years now, and it's kind of a story with them once again this year is their ability to protect Burrow, and that's been a challenge for them.
Right.
They made some big investments in the offensive line.
Haven't really panned out
But
yet.
they haven't really panned out. The Ravens' pass rush has struggled this year. Now, JPP is now in the equation. He played a ton of snaps in his first game.
Odafe had his best game yet.
Odafe had his best game yet.
7 tackles, sack, forced fumble.
Almost had another
Is he
fumble.
heating up?
Is he heating up? Certainly that's the hope.
Right.
He also came close on another sack, and Josh Allen just kind of got out of his grasp. And you want to see him finish those plays.
Right.
But, like, if the pass rush can turn it up and they can harass Burrow like he's been bothered, at times over the course of this year, then I do think that's going to create opportunities for the guys in the secondary and the back end to continue that ball hawking ability that we've seen already this season.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. This is the game the Ravens made all those investments for, right? I mean, you get torched by Joe Burrow twice last year. That sticks with you during the offseason.
Well, and the Bengals go to the Super Bowl, they win the AFC, and all right,
we got to beat them.
That's where we got to get to.
Exactly.
We got to go through those guys to get where we want to go. We got to play them twice a year.
Quite confident that Eric DeCosta was thinking about that when he signed Marcus Williams. That we're going to be able to match up against them when he drafted Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
Right? That we're going to be able to match up against the Bengals better, and we're going to see.
Yeah. Well, T. Higgins is an interesting one because I do think he creates matchup problems just based on his size. He's a jump ball guy. And I thought that Marlon Humphrey kind of made an interesting point on that this week where he said one of the things about Burrow, and Joe Flacco had this too, which was like even if your guy, he just puts his guys in positions to allow them to try to go make plays. Like even if they're covered well, he still trusts his players to say, you know what, I think Jamar Chase is going to win that jump ball. I think T. Higgins is going to win that jump ball. So like
he's a little bit of a gambler.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a gunslinger, and that presents opportunities for turnovers. And quite frankly, the Ravens just didn't have the horses to get those turnovers last year when those opportunities arose. This year's a different story.
With going back to T. Higgins,
Marcus
though,
Williams is getting one, by the way.
Ooh,
He's
all
getting the 2-week podcast bump.
Okay.
Skip the week, then he gets the podcast bump.
All right, I like that. The interesting point on T. Higgins is like a matchup guy against him is kind of Kyle Hamilton. Like he has the size, and
Tough matchup for the rookie.
That would be a very tough matchup. But
Yeah.
that will be one. Do they end up? I don't know. Match it up against each other.
Well,
much?
Brandon Stevens played a lot last week. He was really the number
The
3
third,
corner.
yeah.
And so I expect, he's a pretty physical guy too.
He's big too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bigger body guy. I would imagine that he will see a fair amount of action as well. It was interesting. Jamar Chase said, he doesn't think that Marlon Humphrey's going to shadow him like Marlon did the first time that they met.
Yeah.
When he ripped off the 82-yard touchdown or whatever it was and went for a 201 yards and a touch.
Yeah.
And Jamar, the Bengals like I said, they like to talk some smack, and it's very subtle this week. You got to read between the lines.
Yeah.
They're trying to kind of play nice and not put up that bulletin board material. But he said, I'm excited to face Marcus Peters for the first time in my career. I'm excited to face Marcus Peters. You don't say that about Juice Man. You should never feel excited to face Juice Man.
So let's flip it over to the other side of the ball before we close out here. An interesting thing this week is certainly going to be the Ravens offense and how they look if Rashad Bateman is not able to play. We'll see.
That is a big storyline.
That is a big storyline, and we'll see. Fingers crossed that he's able to go. But Devin Duvernay, there could be a lot on him. I mean, this could be a game where he has to 10 targets, 8 targets. That potential exists.
Well, he's caught everyone but one. Every time he's been targeted, caught the ball except for one time. So 10 targets sounds like 10 catches to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we know he has great hands and he can make contested catches. But yeah, I think that will be kind of like, as we talked with him about this, like he's taken steps in his career, being the number 1 guy going into a divisional game. If that turns out to be the case,
a big one.
That would be another massive step for him.
Yeah.
And a real challenge.
Mark Andrews is chomping at the bit too. I asked him about this in the locker room. He has 2 for 15 last week. That doesn't sit well with a dog. Dog. Like Mark, that post game last week after the Bills game, when he said, what was it?
I'm a dog, I like to attack.
I'm a dog and I like to attack. And I'm glad John Harbaugh is too.
Yeah.
He said it twice. He followed up too with the double down on the dog.
Yeah.
The double dog. I'm telling you, he kind of brushed off my question this week when he was like, nah, that doesn't really roll into the next game. Every game is different.
Yeah,
He's locked in.
I've said this before. I think Mark Andrews, like his focus level this year, it doesn't seem like he is like ever not laser focused.
Yes.
And he's doing everything that he can at all times to get better and to improve. And I think that he's going to have a good game. I think he's going to have a big game. He does
how big?
How big of a game? I think that Mark Andrews is we're looking at 8.
There's a touch in there.
Oh, definitely a touch.
At least.
At least a touch.
Maybe 2?
Maybe 2. I think we're looking at 8 for. I think it's a monster game for Mark Andrews.
how monster are we going?
I think it is a monster game for Mark Andrews. I'm going to go 8 for 102.
8 for 102.
No, 8 for 100 and then 2 touches.
Touchdowns. Okay. I like that. My fantasy team would also like that.
That's my prediction. So you made your prediction that the defense is shutting down the Bengals and holding them to 0 points.
0 points. And I did not predict a shutout for the record.
But you predicted a very strong showing.
Yes, I did. Anyway.
So if I'm predicting the big day for Mark Andrews, you're predicting the big day for the defense, then what does that mean?
That means